1 day passed. The silence was absolutely deafening. 2 days passed. The baby lay in a hospital crib, nameless, alone, and utterly vulnerable. 3 days went by. Still nothing. Not a single word. The cold, unsettling silence was the only answer the authorities received. No distraught mother appeared at the hospital doors. No anonymous tipster called in with crucial information. The baby had simply been erased from someone's life, left to fade away in the trash while the world cheered for forehands and backhands just a few hundred yards away. It was a nightmare scenario that exposed the darkest corners of human nature. Hashtag the haunting. While the police investigation hit one dead end after another, Alexandra Eala was desperately trying to play tennis. She had matches to prepare for. She had media obligations that could not be ignored. She had the eyes of the Philippines and the entire world trained on her every move. But those who know her best, her closest friends and team members, say she was fundamentally changed by what she had witnessed. In press conferences, she seemed distant and distracted, her usual spark noticeably dimmed. During practice sessions, her eyes would drift away, losing focus on the ball, her mind clearly somewhere else entirely. She was not thinking about her upcoming match against Alicia Parks or her doubles strategy. She was thinking about those empty, haunting eyes she had seen in that trash bin. How do you focus on a game when you have stared true evil directly in the face? How do you celebrate winning a point when you know a helpless child is lying alone in a hospital ward, unwanted and unloved by the very person who brought them into this world? Sources extremely close to her team revealed something remarkable. Alex visited the hospital every single night without fail. She would sneak out of her hotel well after midnight, wearing a hoodie and sunglasses to avoid the ever-present paparazzi, and sit quietly by the baby's crib for hours. She watched the nurses feed him with infinite patience. She held his tiny hand in hers. She sang Filipino lullabies her own mother had sung to her. She saw in that child a reflection of vulnerability that both terrified and inspired her. The tennis world demands absolute selfishness from its champions. To be number one, you have to be ruthless. You have to put yourself first, your sleep first, your recovery first, your diet first. Everything else comes second. But Alex was feeling something completely different, something that defied the cold logic of professional sports. She was feeling a pull that made no sense on paper but made all the sense in the world to her heart. She realized with growing certainty that the silence from the biological mother was never going to break. That baby was truly, completely alone in this world. And in that devastating realization, the Trailblazer decided to blaze a path that no one in the entire history of professional tennis had ever dared to walk during an active Grand Slam tournament. Hashtag the adoption that shocked the world. The news broke on a Tuesday morning, just as the second-round matches were beginning across the tournament grounds. It was not a leak from some shady gossip website or an unconfirmed rumor. It was a fully confirmed, verified report from multiple sources. Alexandra Eala had initiated emergency custody proceedings through the Australian family court system. She was not just visiting the baby out of sympathy or charitable obligation. She was actually, genuinely adopting him. A 20-year-old professional athlete was becoming a mother in the middle of a Grand Slam. The shockwave that followed was absolutely instantaneous and overwhelming. Twitter completely melted down with millions of tweets flooding in by the minute. Instagram exploded with reactions ranging from tearful support to absolute bewilderment. Sports analysts across the globe were utterly baffled, scrambling to make sense of this unprecedented situation. The questions came fast and furious. She's only 20 years old. How is this even possible? She's in the absolute prime of her career. How can she possibly raise a baby while touring the world 11 months out of the year? Is she retiring from tennis entirely? Has she lost her mind? It was complete and utter madness. Sponsors were calling her agent in an absolute panic, demanding answers and reassurances. Coaches from other camps were shaking their heads in disbelief, muttering about wasted potential and career suicide. But Alex herself? She was remarkably, almost eerily calm amidst the hurricane swirling around her. She released a brief but absolutely searing statement through her social media accounts that cut through all the noise and speculation like a hot knife through butter. She did not waste time talking about complex legalities or logistical challenges. She did not offer detailed explanations about her future plans. She spoke from a place of pure, unadulterated fury and unconditional love that resonated with millions. The statement was simple and devastating. Only evil people would abandon their own child. That quote. Those 7 words. They were simple. They were raw. They were brutally honest. And they went absolutely viral within seconds, spreading across every social media platform on Earth. It was not the carefully polished PR speak we have all become accustomed to hearing from professional athletes who are media trained to within an inch of their lives. It was a moral judgment. It was a fierce condemnation of the person who had left that innocent baby to die, and it was a direct challenge to a world that allows such unspeakable things to happen in the shadows. People from every corner of the globe rallied behind her in overwhelming numbers. The narrative shifted dramatically overnight from "is she out of her mind?" to "she is an absolute saint and a hero." Fans started bringing baby clothes, diapers, and toys to her matches instead of tennis balls to sign. The legendary Eala Army, already one of the most passionate fanbases in tennis, transformed virtually overnight into a massive support network for their champion who had just become a new mother in the most extraordinary circumstances imaginable. But if you thought for even 1 second that the story ended there, with a heartwarming adoption and a heroic quote that united the world, you would be absolutely wrong. Because what Alex said next did not just unite people in admiration. It tore them apart and ignited a debate that is still raging to this very day. Hashtag the controversial statement that split the tennis world. A few days later, after the initial paperwork had been filed and the baby, whom she reportedly named Felix, meaning lucky or successful in Latin, was safe in her care with round-the-clock medical supervision, Alex sat down for what everyone fully expected to be a soft, feel-good interview about her new life as an instant mother. The reporter, likely expecting some touching sound bites about balancing motherhood and tennis, asked what seemed like a standard, safe question. "Alex, how exactly will you balance the demands of the professional tour with the responsibilities of motherhood? Aren't you worried it will negatively affect your ranking and your career trajectory?" Alex looked the reporter dead in the eye with an intensity that made the entire room go silent. The camera operator instinctively zoomed in, sensing that something significant was about to happen. The room, which had been filled with the usual pre-interview chatter, went absolutely quiet. You could have heard a pin drop. And then, without hesitation, she dropped the bomb that would ignite a firestorm. If a ranking point is worth more than a human life, then the whole system is fundamentally rotten to its core. Maybe I don't want to be part of a world that thinks a trophy is more important than being a mother to a child who needs me. The tour absolutely hates mothers. It punishes us for daring to have lives outside of tennis. So maybe, just maybe, I'm completely done playing by your outdated, inhumane rules. If tennis cannot make space for basic human kindness and compassion, I will burn the entire schedule to the ground and build something better from the ashes. Boom. Mic drop. Explosion. The fallout was absolutely nuclear, dividing the tennis world into 2 warring camps virtually overnight. Camp A, the traditionalists, were absolutely furious and made no attempt to hide it. They called her wildly unprofessional and ungrateful. They said she was viciously biting the hand that fed her and made her famous. They argued passionately that tennis is a job like any other high-performance profession, and like any such job, it requires enormous sacrifice and unwavering dedication. They said she was cynically using the baby as a convenient excuse for a lack of focus and declining performance. You simply cannot have it all, the critics sneered dismissively. Either focus entirely on the game or quit and stop wasting everyone's time. They pointed to decades of tradition, arguing that the system works perfectly well for those willing to make the necessary sacrifices. Camp B, the passionate supporters, hailed her as nothing less than a revolutionary hero who was finally speaking truth to power. They pointed out with mountains of evidence how the professional tennis tour does indeed make it incredibly, almost impossibly hard for mothers to compete at the highest level. They cited heartbreaking examples of players like Victoria Azarenka and Serena Williams who struggled mightily to return to their previous form after having children, facing ranking penalties, limited childcare support, and outdated policies that seemed designed for a different era. They saw Alex's explosive statement not as an ungrateful threat, but as a desperately necessary demand for long overdue systemic change. They argued convincingly that athletes are human beings first and foremost, and that the win-at-all-costs mentality that dominates professional sports is fundamentally toxic and unsustainable. They celebrated Alex for having the courage to say what so many others had been thinking but were too afraid to voice publicly. The debate raged on absolutely every sports channel, podcast, and social media platform for weeks. Is Alexandra Eala destroying her once promising career? Versus is Alexandra Eala saving the very soul of professional sports? The arguments became heated, personal, and sometimes downright ugly as people projected their own values and beliefs onto this extraordinary situation. Hashtag the aftermath and the unfolding legacy. So where exactly does all of this leave us right now in this still developing story? Alexandra Eala is no longer simply a tennis player trying to climb the rankings. She has become something far more significant and complex. She is a powerful symbol. She is a new mother thrust into the spotlight. She is a provocateur forcing uncomfortable conversations. She is a lightning rod for debates about work-life balance, gender equity, and human compassion in professional sports. She walked into the Australian Open as a hopeful young contender with dreams of Grand Slam glory and walked out as arguably the most talked-about woman in all of sports. Not because of a spectacular backhand winner or an upset victory, but because she plucked a discarded life out of a literal trash bin and then dared the entire world to tell her she was wrong for caring. The baby, Felix, is reportedly doing remarkably well considering the horrific circumstances of his first days on Earth. He is surrounded by a dedicated team of nannies, medical professionals, and family members who have flown in from the Philippines to support Alex during this unprecedented time. But the enormous question marks hanging over her professional career remain unanswered and deeply concerning to many. Will she take an extended hiatus from competitive tennis to focus on Felix's critical early development? Will she wage a prolonged war against the WTA establishment to force them to implement better child care policies and parental support systems? Will she actually follow through on her threat to burn the schedule to the ground and create an alternative tour that prioritizes human dignity over prize money? We honestly do not know yet what the future holds. The story is still being written in real time. But we absolutely do know this beyond any shadow of doubt. The silence of that abandoned baby, left to die alone in a trash bin, has been replaced by the powerful roar of a young woman who found her voice, her purpose, and her courage in the most unlikely place imaginable. This extraordinary story forces all of us to look in the mirror and confront some deeply uncomfortable questions about our values and priorities. In a world utterly obsessed with winning, with status, with the next big thing, with social media clout and viral moments, are we collectively losing our fundamental humanity? Are we so focused on personal achievement that we have forgotten what actually matters? Alexandra Eala looked into a trash bin behind a tennis facility and found her answer in the form of a helpless infant. Now, each of us has to find our own answer to that question. Hashtag what do you think? Let's talk about it. This is the story that everyone in the mainstream media is absolutely afraid to touch with this level of honesty and depth, but we are bringing it to you completely raw, unfiltered, and uncensored because that is what Court Vision Plus is all about. I desperately want to hear from you, the audience that makes this channel possible. Was Alex absolutely right to adopt the baby in the middle of a Grand Slam tournament, or should she have waited and let the system handle it through normal channels? Is her explosive statement about the tennis tour hating mothers completely fair and accurate, or was she just being overly emotional in a vulnerable moment? And do you genuinely think she can still become world number one and compete for Grand Slam titles while simultaneously raising a child she heroically saved from the streets? Let me know your honest thoughts in the comments section below. I read absolutely every single comment and I genuinely value your perspectives, even when we disagree. And listen carefully. If you want to stay fully updated on this developing saga, and believe me when I tell you this story is far from over, you absolutely need to be subscribed to Court Vision Plus. We will be tracking baby Felix's progress, Alex's ongoing war against the tennis establishment, and every single twist and turn in this unprecedented journey every step of the way. The mainstream media will move on to the next story within days, but we are committed to following this through to whatever conclusion awaits. Smash that like button right now if you support Alex's courageous decision to choose humanity over rankings. Subscribe to Court Vision Plus for the unfiltered truth that you will not find anywhere else. And please share this video far and wide to spread the word and keep this critical conversation alive. Until next time, keep your eyes on the court, but more importantly, keep your heart wide open to the humanity that exists beyond the baseline. This is Court Vision Plus, signing off.
I'm just one person. I'm, just trying to do my best with the career that I have. I'm an athlete that's doing her best to compete and doing her best to